Yup. How's everybody doing? Another ATC video. So it is currently September 4th, 2022. This is 1984 ATC200S that I picked up earlier this summer. At first I kind of walked away from it because it didn't look like this when I first saw it, but I could tell that, you know, there was a hidden gem underneath. And that it, you know, had been owned by an elderly couple, an elderly gentleman, never abused. You know, it was used for working around the farm, but other than that, it had always sort of been taken care of. Mostly it was cosmetic issues. I mean, the first thing that sold me on it was the fact that the engine was so quiet. You know, there was no rattles, no ticks, no nothing, which kind of surprised me, being an ATC200S. I thought maybe, you know, these things got ridden hard and put away wet, because you don't see a lot of them out there, even though they are out there, you know, hidden here and there. Anyways, yeah, so the only thing, a lot of cleaning, as per usual if you've seen my other videos. Repainted some stuff, repainted the original deckling on the tank, but I did repaint it. As you can tell, it doesn't really match the plastic, but it was all sun faded and scratched up, and the top was basically gone, and you know, stuff like that. So just had to clean it up. Original seat did have a hole in it, but I did sort of a vinyl repair underneath as best I could. Obviously it's not perfect, but it's certainly better than the hole that was in there before. Yeah, not original tires, even though it has basically these sort of new knobs on it. They still got the painted lines in them, which is nice. Getting nice new tires on a bike. I'd still like to get a new dipstick, because this dipstick is all yellowed. The gas tank did have a leak in the corner here that had been brazed with brass or bronze at some point, but they did a pretty hack job on it. And anyways, I did a JB weld fix and repaint, which will fix it for good. Same old story. Repainted the exhaust, VHT high temp, cleaned the carburetor, all that kind of stuff. You can still see there's still a bit of red overspray from the previous owner when they tried to repaint the tank with it still on the bike. You know, that's always a great idea. And other than that, it was sort of all here. There was originally a front rack, which I still have. So it had a front rack, it had a headlight riser, which actually just jacks the headlight up about 2 or 3 inches to get up and above the front rack in case you're carrying something. But I took the headlight riser off and I took the front rack off just because I didn't like the headlight riser part, and that was kind of there for the rack. So both of them I still have, but they're just set aside. Fork boots, amazingly, they're both in perfect shape. There's no rips, no tears, no nothing. Like, couldn't believe it. The front axle was stuck in the tube when I got it, but I had to sort of extract it, redid all the bearings, cleaned it all up, redid all the forks, took the forks off, redid all the internals, all new ATF, cleaned them up so they're just like new. Just cleaned up the engine cases. It originally had one of those sort of underplate, skid plate guard setups on it that bolt in place of where the foot peg bolts go. I think I have 3 or 4 of them now, but I always end up taking them off. Although, me saying that, I think that is actually what sort of protected the bike from getting beaten and smashed, especially on the lower frame rails and underneath the engine cases over the years. So on one hand, they're a bit of a saving grace if you want to protect your bike, but I just don't particularly like them. And I mean, I don't really use these bikes anyways. I sort of just collect them and restore them as best I can. So as you can see, 84 200S, that's not going to zoom, but believe me when I tell you it is. Yeah, so just did a lot of cleaning underneath and around the frame. Took the chain case off, The chain is just like new inside. It actually still has the original blue painted mark on the master link from the factory. So original chain, original sprockets, never been replaced. I just cleaned them up and re-lubed them. Recoil, I put a brand new recoil rope on. Other than that, the recoil internally is just like new. The gasket where it mounts the engine case, that had a little rips and tears in the rubber sort of sealing part of it. So I just sort of silicone that up a little bit just to protect it from any water getting in. Not that water will ever get in, because I'm not about to sink this into a mud hole somewhere. Doesn't have the original fuel line. The tank has a little bit of rust inside, but I tried to clean it up as best I could. So there's an inline fuel filter for the time being, even though there's not a lot of sediment or anything coming through anymore. I did put brand new grips on. I usually always do that on my machines, because the original grips were still there, they were just completely worn out. The levers still have that original plastic coating on it, that one not so much. This one over here, it's pretty much all still intact on that brake lever, which is pretty cool. Yeah, seat, fenders, you know, there's no cracks or breaks. The decals are starting to peel all around all the edges, but I tried to save them. I know a lot of guys go and buy brand new decal kits, take the old decals off, put all new ones on. I might do that at some point, but I always try to save the originals. The one part I did try to find on the recoil was the little cap for the top of the recoil handle. Could not find one of those to save my life. I mean, I don't know, maybe they're out there somewhere. But again, this handle was sort of compromised anyway, so I'm sure the cap probably wouldn't have, you know, sat in its place properly. But ideally, I'd like to have a new handle, new cap, and even some of the original recoil rope, if I could ever find a new old stock recoil rope, because that was like the best stuff I could find at the time, but it is not like the original. So obviously this bike from the factory would not have come with the rear rack, I don't believe, because they've cut holes into the original fenders, and obviously one is sort of roundish, one's a bit squared off, you know, they're not 100%, but the rear rack is there. The rubber things are still intact, still functional. The trunk is there. Let's see if I can get access to the trunk. So the trunk doesn't open all the way because of the rear rack, so it actually hits that bar. But other than that, the trunk is there, all nice and clean. The one part I'm missing that bugs me is the rubber handle, the rubber strap for this to connect it to the pin. Don't know why it's missing, but it's missing. Usually they either they would tear and then sort of not be functional, but they would still be there. But this one's missing. Tail light. The tail light was broken. The housing was actually cracked all the way through, and there was a piece missing underneath. But I did I think I want to say a pretty bang up job at replacing it with another piece of red reflector off a car tail light, and clear epoxied the inside of it, and so it's basically 100% again. Rear reflectors are all still intact. Again, the chain case is all there. Obviously did the same mold cleaning treatment, repainted some of the parts, the hangers, frame, redid the exhaust, the original exhaust, JB welded any holes, sanded, repainted with VHT 1200F, header paint. Anyways, there are no leaks anymore. She's a fully functioning stock exhaust. No rattles, no rust shooting out of it, none of that kind of crap. Trailer hitch, that is not the original ball. There was an old ball on it. I took it off, put a new ball on it. Maybe some of you can tell me if I actually have this mounted upside down or not, with those bolts facing up and the bar underneath as opposed to being on top. I don't remember which way that's actually supposed to go. Rear brakes, 100%. Took them apart, cleaned them up. They had water and rust inside. The shoes had actually delaminated, but I actually just sort of JB welded the shoe ceramic sort of back onto the backing plate and cleaned them all up, and they're just like new again. They were still perfectly fine and salvageable instead of going and buying all new ones. Yeah, took the cables off, cleaned them, lubed them. They're 100% as well. Bearings in the back seem great, no issues. Axles are straight, hubs are good. No stripped splines or any nonsense like that. Fenders are fully intact. Still that warning label is on the grab bar. Repainted the rims. And again, just went through it and cleaned it up. And what else? The seat. Alright, let's see if I can get the seat off again. I know I've done this before. So there's a latch down here. I always struggle. Okay. So underneath here, air box. Put a new OEM filter in the box. The original toolkit was there, still there, even though the little snap button was toast, so I just tied it up for the time being. Yeah, all the original nuts and bolts and fasteners are still there. Could not get these out, these two, because the backs just spin and they're completely rusted together, so I couldn't actually get that piece off or get the trunk out of the frame. Underneath the seat. One of the modifications I actually did was this. So these don't have, from the factory, a seat latch spring to return. Right? You sort of just snap them down and click them back in. So all I did is I got a stainless spring, drilled the hole in here, drilled the hole back here, actually two because I didn't get it the first time. The proper amount of tension, hooked it through, hooked it in, and so now I got a functioning spring for the seat latch. And obviously you can see the seat pans perfectly fine. That's great. And yeah, this is basically just me trying to save another old three-wheeler. They're still out there. I actually found another one online shortly after this, another ATC200S. Fairly local. And with the same front and rear racks and the same headlight riser. So yeah, the racks I assume were optional with the headlight riser. I don't know if they were offered from Honda or not. Maybe some of you can shed some light on that. I would really like to know. And if you happen to know, I'd like to see if anybody has the original accessory installation instructions for the front and rear racks, like the actual OEM installation sheets, you know, for how to install them. The front rack and headlight riser are pretty straightforward. The rear rack I would like to see, because I would like to know how Honda tells you to cut the holes in these rear fairings. If there was a template you were supposed to use, or if you're just supposed to just guess as to how big the holes were supposed to be, and then like cut and trim yourself, because I can't imagine too many people would like doing that themselves, cutting holes in their perfectly good plastics, and then maybe not getting it right the first time, and then having to hog the holes out more. So yeah, that's you know, that's the old girl again, nice and clean. Repainted the skid plates, chain adjuster, good, drain plug, all that stuff. I put some what is it, rust check inside the frame tubes. Gave her a good soak and rust check. So internally she's all coated, never to rust again, unless of course it's put to the bottom of an ocean or something stupid. Front brakes, so they were good as well. Just cleaned them up, redid them. Same deal with the shoes, even though the shoes on the front were in much better shape than the rears, because you know they just seem to stay out of the junk a little more than the back tires do. It has the original decompression cable, which is attached to the recoil. That's still fully functional, intact as well. Rear brake lever still has the rubber little return thing guard on the rear lever. Yeah. And so, let's see if I can start it up here. Make sure it's in the run position. Make sure the fuel's on. And give her a pull. Nice and quiet. Headlight, taillights work 100%. Still good. Front and rear brakes, like I said, they're awesome. You know, the levers work, they don't stick. Both return fully. Parking brakes there. Unlike my 200 ES, this time no smoke. Let's turn the lights on. High and low beam work. Taillight. Hard to see in the sunlight, but she's good. Anyways, another video from Johnny Fever. Again, 1984 ATC200S. Low miles, basically all original, except for the tires. Other than that, love ATCs, ATCs for life. Ciao.